All right, I'm going to call order the town board meeting at the Town of Lisbon Town Hall on Monday, August 23rd, 2021 at 6:32 PM. Roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman,
Here.
Supervisor Moonen,
Here.
Supervisor Beal. Here. Supervisor Braun,
Here.
Supervisor Klotecker, Administrator Nicholas. Here. Clerk Capazza to record the minutes. And we also have interim fire chief Michelle Drager in the audience.
Thank you. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3 is comments from citizens present. Does anyone wish to make any comments tonight? Anyone on Zoom? Thank you. Item 4 is the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered in one motion unless a town board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda. We have the August 9th, 2021 town board minutes, and we have the authorized the payment of the town advocacy council membership in the amount of $2,500. Does anyone wish to have anything removed, or is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Becky to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Doug Brown. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 5, accounts payable. Authorize the payment of the bills in the amount of $109,882.58. Kathy?
We have both. They're doing that plan and incorporation, so $1,100. We have, is $5,000 plus the county. Watch up treasure for 60,627. Ask for approval.
Questions or comments on the bills? Is
I
there a
make
motion?
it- I make a motion, we approve as presented.
Moved by Linda to approve. Is there a second? Second by Becky. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 6, announcements and correspondence. We have a plan commission and joint public hearings on Thursday, September 2nd, 2021 at 6:30 PM at the Richard Young Fire Station. Next town board meeting is on the 13th at 6:30 at the town hall. We have the sanitary sewer district number 1 commission meeting on Wednesday, the 15th at 6:30.
Nope, it's on the 22nd next
All
month.
right, 22nd next month for the sanitary, not the 15th, the
Correct.
22nd, here at the town hall.
Mhm.
We have a special town board meeting on the 20th at 6:30 at the town hall. We have a Parks Committee meeting on the 20th at 6:30 at the Richard Young Fire Station. We have our 9/11 event on 9/11. Here, at what time does it start, Kathy?
10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock. All right, does anyone else have any other announcements or correspondence to note? All right, administrator report.
Don't we meet on the last in September?
We moved it.
Oh, you moved
Moved
it?
it to the 20th.
20th, okay, just want to make sure.
So we had one public records request on August 6th from Jeff Fillinger. It was completed on August 13th concerning plans for Mary's Custom Storage. The department July reports, the clerk issued 4 dog license, 14 park reservations, processed 21 parking tickets, 17 special assessment letters, worked on the agenda minutes packets for all the town board meetings, plan commission meetings, coordinated with Ellers to schedule the joint review board. That was today. Worked with the assessor on hearings and objections filed for the board of review and had annual maintenance done on the election equipment. Processed and mailed 9 welcome packets. DPW director attended the informational meeting concerning Highway Q and Hillside Roundabout, Lisbon Business Park East Water Main Extension Pre-Con meetings, and prepared for Lion Stays Parade. The Highway Division started second round of, roadside mowing, installed and approached the approach and culvert at the new compost site. Ground over 40 stumps for tree staff removal and applied mastic to roads to eliminate dips and rough sections. Performed shoulder work in between Pine Farms, Circle East subdivision, ditch work and culvert replacement was done on Jessica Drive and Lake 5. Parks Division continued to clean bathrooms, took the garbage out, mowed and weed whipped the parks, completed a major rehabilitation of Stony Hook West Park, consisting of cleaning benches, park equipment, painting and mulching the park. The Sheriff's Department had 52 traffic stops, 27 citations, 19 verbal warnings, 49 assists for EMS in fire, 38 extra patrols, 2 drug, 4 911 hangups, 22 entries into autos, and then 11 neighbor disputes. Fire, there were 3 fire calls, 22 medical, 18 ALS intercepts, 36 interfacility transports, 6 vehicle incidents, and 3 initial re-inspections. That's what I have for you today.
All right, any questions for Kathy? Thank you, Kathy. Item 8, supervisor reports.
Not really much. We're just working on one issue that I'll be bringing up later on.
Okay,
About a homeowner.
anything
Thank
for anyone else? All right. Item 9, new business. A, discussion and necessary action regarding a traffic study for Business Park East in the amount of up to $42,151.
So we are at our last leg of the traffic study. We had done the initial study for TIDA, did the initial study, and we have done that, given it to the county. County came back and said, these are all the areas that they wanted studied for the final, to find out if we needed any traffic signaling, and if we can get our Main Street and entrance, as well as a town line entrance for Business Park East. This study is specifically for Business Park East. The cost that was given to us was $42,151, and I apologize, I didn't put that in our packet, but the reason I am asking for approval up to that amount is because I'm having our engineer look at a couple other quotes, because this just seemed a little high. I did get a good response from TIDA. They gave us a reason why it's that high. And but when I did the agenda, I thought it was best that we give me some flexibility to get our bid lower that will complete if possible. So this will finish our study. What the 42,000 will do is not only the study that's needed to make the decision if we can get the 2 sites, it's also going to allow us to right away get our intersection permits, so they don't have to come back and do another study for the permits to get our intersections approved. So I ask for your approval.
I have a couple questions. Are they really going to study the traffic that's on Town Line Road and Main Street there? Because there's no really traffic in there, because there's nothing for as far as people going in and out.
So it's the traffic study is takes into consideration all the time that the kids are in and out of school. Downtown line goes, we'll study the Mill Road, how that's going to be affected by the number of cars coming through, all the way up to the roundabout on town line. So that whole section, it's not only where it is now, but the full build out with all of the park completely filled. What kind of pressure will town line be trying to get out on town line, how that will work, and then what kind of pressure. Same with Main Street. So it might not be what our property is. It's going to show where how much road goes past that property, how much traffic goes past that property now, and what they expect to have with the type of build out that we're doing.
It seems kind of strange because the high school's always been there. They've always had the kids coming and going. I'm just shocked why they have to do this because nothing has changed there. It's the school buses, it's the kids. They've always had that on Mill Road there. They've always had it on Main Street. So I'm just
So
kind of
it's-
baffled.
Yeah, so it's to show that if we need a stoplight or, and if our intersections will be allowed in the areas that we want them for the business park. So we know that once the business park is completely built out, that we're gonna see a lot more car traffic in and out of that one parcel area there. So they need to find out what's needed. So if we need turning lanes, which we do, turning lanes to get in, so people can still be going to the light on that corner. So it's a full study.
So this is mandated by the county and it's not like we have a choice, right?
That's correct.
So
I know. Makes no sense to me.
Any questions for you, Mark? Becky? Is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion, we approve the traffic study for Business Park East in the amount of up to $42,151.
Is there a second? Second by Mark. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item B, discussion necessary action regarding the purchase of block on Business Park East property.
So I'm going to ask for this item to be skipped. This was, I did some research and it's not possible. So I'm going to move forward on that.
Okay, item C, discussion only regarding budget workshops and process.
So I've got, I spoke with a couple of the board members to find out what we might be looking for our budget process this time. It was asked that maybe we have that I have the department heads come in and give a little presentation on their potential capital projects. What it is, why they need it, how much it'll cost, and what date they absolutely need it by. So I've got set up on September 13th, DPW and Parks presentation will be done. And then on September 20th, the fire and clerks presentations for capital will be done. Then a line item draft budget will be sent to you no later than October 5th. So it'll be a full breakdown. I did that last time, but now you know that I'll be going through a little bit quicker unless you want me to slow down a little bit. So the board members can ask me after October 5th when you get it, if you need more information on why that has changed, that transaction, transactions, what do we do in that area, that type of thing. October 11th, we'll have a workshop after our regular board meeting. And I'll send you this timeline out, so you're aware. So we'll have, after our board meeting on October 11th, we'll have a workshop and we'll go through like a draft for the line item that I gave you, the line budget that I gave you. Any questions you have, highlight, and then we'll stop at those and talk about those line items. Then on October 18th, the final budget workshop, it'll be we're only coming in for the budget. That's it, nothing more on the 18th. Because on the 20th, we have to send it to the paper for it to be in the paper, the 2 weeks. And then our budget hearing is November 10th at 7 o'clock. That gives us 2 weeks to do the budget, the tax bills and get them out. So kind of stretched it out a little bit more and gave you a little bit more information from the department heads on their capital projects.
on the September 20th, we have a special board meeting.
That's our special board meeting. Yeah.
So then the fire department would be before that or after that or something.
That'll be after that, presentations.
You said, mentioned nothing about, I'm sorry, are you done?
Yes,
didn't mean to-
yes,
okay.
that's okay.
You said nothing about the highway.
DPW, Highway and Parks
13th.
is the
Oh.
13th.
Okay. Okay.
So did you have anything more that you'd like me to add in this process?
Mm,
Okay,
So we're good with just identifying
What you
individual
need.
lines that you may want to look at, not going line by line and everything. Everybody's good with that?
mhm.
But we're getting a sheet of it
Yep.
first
absolutely.
to compare from last year to this year. And
And it'll have it all in there. I've got actually a format I worked on this weekend that will give us 2018, 19, 20 actuals, then 21 current, then 21 budget, and then our expected end of the year budget, where we're at, and then what the suggested 2022 would be. And so if you look at a line item and you go, well, what do we use this for? Or how come it was so high in this year and but we're so low this year? You can always contact me and then I can gather the information. So then I can present that information to you. So we're not going back and forth too much. Okay,
Everybody's good?
Maybe you want to share with us what anybody asked. So,
absolutely. I would pass it to everybody.
yeah.
So if
okay,
one of you asks,
Right.
feel confident, I will send it to everyone.
like a
Perfect.
chain
Thank you.
email or something.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And then just a reminder that on September 20th, we're also going to be looking at our redistricting plan. So. just-
And I don't want to go somewhere else.
Well, you'll definitely be in-
Everywhere we have to go to the town hall,
Have you?
And I'd like to stay here.
And where are you here?
I have to go to the fire station.
Oh, fire station.
You do?
Okay.
Do you really? Oh,
Yeah.
So for the town meeting on the 10th, it seems early,
Uh,
because usually it's on my birthday or real close.
The second, it's the second Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
That's when it was last year. I'd be happy to push it back to the 17th.
I didn't know if it's statutorily a certain day.
The sooner we get it out, no, it's not statutory, but
Okay.
I,
I'm fine with it. It just
Yeah.
like all these years historically, it's either
yeah, it kind of
the day
bounces,
before, the day on, or day after,
you know,
or
it's usually
similar.
the second week of the month. And we always do it on Wednesday.
Okay.
So, I mean, was my, what we did last year.
I'm
so I
perfectly
kept it
fine.
the
I just
same.
didn't know if it was a statutory day. That's all. the
No,
reason I'm
it's not.
asking. Okay.
No, because I used to do it on the first week in November in Waukesha, unless there was an election, and I'd bump it to the second.
Okay.
Because they get their tax bills fat. The faster I can get the tax bills put together, the faster they get their tax bills. And people like their tax bills early, as
yes.
early as
They
possible,
do.
so they can prep.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you,
Everybody's
everyone.
good with this?
Mhm.
All right.
Lots of meetings.
Not as
Item-
many as used to have.
D,
Not as many as he used to have.
Yeah.
All right, so this is really just for discussion. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I know we're kind of in flux with where our fire department's going in the future. We do have a possibility of property out. We have the property already at Stone Family. Right now, it's being used as a baseball diamond for a future fire station. That future fire station would be on the other side of the railroad tracks to allow flow on the east, our
When you say
eastern
other
border.
side, what side?
It would
the
be
east?
on the eastern side of the railroad tracks
Mhm.
to allow for a response time in that eastern portion. And we have impact fees that are at about $295,000. We have to use our impact fees.
By when?
And
Due date?
well, there's some that will every year, drops off every year.
Right.
And so what I'm suggesting is that the chief and I start working on what the needs are. And I'm considering something a little smaller, nothing as large as what we did last time. Something maybe, a couple bays, a few bays, and sleeping quarters, but nothing really large in that area that would get an ambulance over that area faster. And if I start reviewing it now, we could bring something back for an RFP to just start an architect drawing, and then we won't lose our impact fees. Lose any impact fees because we can use that toward the building. We can't use these for anything but fire department buildings, so it's 300,000, just shy of 300,000, so. I wanted to bring it up just kind of for discussion. I know it's always a sore spot to be asking to build a new building. At least that was in my former place. And, but I did want to kind of start thinking about it. Would that be something that you'd be interested in us at least pursuing? And I'd like to, if you're in agreement, I'd also like to pull in our former chief to work with us as well.
No?
Any thoughts? Just discussion. There's no action.
Becky, anything?
I think it's a very good.
Okay,
Talked about another fire station for years.
More on the northeast part. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
This will also alleviate if the future happens and we actually build this in the future. This will alleviate some of the needs that our DPW needs in Good Hope also, because then we wouldn't be increasing a fire station. We would just be replacing what we use right now that's in the DPW fire station at Good Hope
Mhm.
and moving that to the new site, just the fire
How
station.
many bays for the fire department are there at Good Hope? How many bays
Um,
for the, because you said two
Could
of them.
you
in the
answer
new-
that?
There's 3 double doors, which are for smaller trucks, you can get 2 behind a door. For the larger trucks, it's very hard to get 1 behind the
One.
door. It's not built specifically very good for fire department use.
Mhm.
I mean,
So at
it's
another
okay,
building, you were
but-
thinking of just having the 2 bays?
Uh, 2, maybe 3. We haven't done the study.
Okay,
So we
that's
haven't
okay.
really
This
looked
one
into
is
it. We're just something
early.
small.
it has to
some-
be big enough to hold our equipment.
It has
Yeah.
Essentially,
to
'cause right
hold
now
at
we've got-
least, I figured you need an ambulance. What were you thinking? A tender and engine, those 3 things.
Mhm.
Where do we go with the rest of it? I mean, it's something to think
Yeah.
about, because we
Yeah.
have considerably more equipment than that over at Good Hope.
Not so much anymore.
We
'cause
got
they-
a
Grass rig.
my future dresser.
Yes, your future.
Future one, yeah. So
Okay. A lot of work. Okay.
some extra work.
Okay.
What,
How's it? Go ahead.
I guess identifying Stone family, how did we come to that conclusion?
I think that was my understanding was it's on the east side of the railroad tracks. And when I came, that's where I was told it was a potential site for us. for the
There's-
fire department.
There's been many maps drawn up through the years on the town of Lisbon with many future fire site proposals. And one of them had that all the way back to the 70s. So they had one there and they proposed one up on 164 and Plainview Road. Nothing's ever been 100% decided.
Okay.
It's just that it's been Lisbon-owned land, and on some map, somebody at some point in time decided to put one there as a proposal. But I think I think long-term planning is really smart, and if there is this money that we have to spend, maybe doing with an architectural plan for a fire station, maybe a study of where it really should go to the best needs of everybody would be appropriate too.
That, I guess my consideration would be that before we even get into any kind of talks with any architects or planning, we identify the need base for it, because, I mean, that park is gonna be abutting something that's no longer even our coverage area. I mean, if the plans date back to the 70s, the VGA wasn't in place then. I guess I haven't seen any recent data to suggest that's what the fire department should go, or
Okay.
is a good reason to go there.
Okay, so maybe we talk about needs, but then maybe have a needs study brought up. We can use funds for that as well.
The thing is with the Northeast, at some point, there's got to be some long-term goal set. And if we're going to be in 5 or 6 minute response times or less, we need to put something in the vicinity up here because the very northeast of the town, we're still not at that. And there's a majority of calls at Hamilton High School, Templeton, Silver Spring, and the mobile home park draws a lot of calls. Those are heavy call areas. So to cover the very northeast part of the town and future building and all those, plus covering the heavy call volume areas, you know, somewhere in those areas would be.
So the other thing that I was considering was maybe looking into commercial impact fees, because right now our impact fees don't cover our commercial area. We're doing this, a lot of work in the Business Park East, and that would be a perfect place, you know, to put some impact fees, so then we can, for fire specifically, you know, a commercial for just fire department. Right now, our fire department has to go past railroad tracks to get there. In this area, it wouldn't have to pass any railroad tracks at all, so, because it would go underneath the bridge to get to our Business Park East, just as a school.
What we really need is a bridge. There should be some railroad highway separations. Long-term planning, they need to have some bridges.
Would this be like a committee form to look into this, or how would we go about?
I think that's our best route, is a committee to see, maybe visit some spots, do a, we can do a needs assessment to see where our calls are. I did get call volume and time from each of the stations to each areas in our town. I do have that we could build into this process.
How about some of the lands that the town now owns?
That is one that we own.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, because we talked about some lots and some, you know, this and that. You know, maybe we want to double check on that list to see if there was something on this side that we could use
Yep.
besides the park.
Besides.
I do think that taking away that ball diamond,
It's
some
gonna be
people are
hard.
going to be able to.
Yes.
upset with that.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, I think so too.
It gets used.
it does get used.
Yeah,
and
it does.
It
I'm
is
not
one of
sure.
our baseball diamonds, according to our parks supervisor, are the most used parts of our parks.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It isn't the best decision to take away one of our baseball diamonds, but that was the place that I was told was the best place.
Is there room to put a baseball diamond there?
But we have the park.
There's a
back there, no,
playground
and
area.
it kind of slopes down. The
Yeah.
flat part is where the.
What baseball is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be much better across the road and over on Tamara.
Sell my house.
Yeah.
Putting big garage doors.
Just kidding, just kidding.
So,
So you said it would be a committee that would focus?
yeah,
on
we
this?
could do a committee. Did you want to be on the committee?
No, I don't.
I thought I
personally
heard a
don't think-
volunteer.
I don't think any of us at the board level should be on it, just because that essentially removes one person from being
Okay,
a biased voter
Right.
for it.
all right.
We're policymakers, not researchers.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm not volunteering.
Okay. So do you think that Doug would be able to, do you think that
Oh,
Doug
yeah.
is not a good idea to bring into the
I mean,
committee?
Nothing
Because
personally
he's a-
against them, I mean, if you're the one making the dough, you're gonna think you make the best pizza.
Yeah.
So,
I was kind of thinking we should hire somebody
Yeah.
to do a
Yeah.
study. But a committee,
But a committee will give us the
I am,
buy-in from our residents as
you're
well.
not gonna hurt my feelings if I'm not. That's
yeah, I mean, I would go with what Doug just said. I'm not knowledgeable on impact fee application, but sounds like we might be able to apply that to a study.
Well, and I think a study might even include maybe villages of Sussex's future plans, and if there could be a joint station built, that would be something that should at least be looked at before it's just said no. But
Yeah, I mean, or I mean, might identify any one of our neighbors that may need additional coverages,
Mhm.
whether it be within our own county or outside the county.
All right. That gives me something to work on. I'm glad I came forward, and this is why I did it, was because if I went in a totally different direction and brought it forward, it would have been a waste of my time and energy. So it's better to get a little direction from you, so I know which direction you're going.
All right. Any other discussion on this?
when does the money have to be spent by?
We have some that needs to be spent by the end of the year.
What can that go for?
It's for the fire department building.
Can't be for staffing costs.
Nope,
Equipment?
Equipment,
nope,
just physical
just the building.
Or a study for the bill,
That would be a,
maybe?
So you can build a building, you can't put people in it.
yeah, not what the impact is, no.
Hmm.
And that's why we would end up doing more park stuff after, if we don't have any need for a fire. Right now, we didn't do a fire station impact fee in our houses any longer because we weren't sure if we were gonna move forward on any fire station. So when we did the impact fees, we did just parks. You can't do DPW, they're very specific on what you can use for, so parks and fire. That's-
The one thing about the fire station is if we get away from the Good Hope, that does free up a lot of, like what you had said earlier. The DPW is looking for room and that's a natural thing that they get that garage.
Mhm.
And actually that, with the double doors, the way that's designed, getting plow trucks in there side by side is easy. Or
Mhm.
easier than fire trucks.
I mean,
Okay.
has it been identified that the Good Hope Station is not a response?
It's,
Good response?
yes, when you go to the far northeast corner, the numbers come out pretty higher than, that's our most difficult spot to get to, the northeast corner of our, even by Good Hope. Now, we can't, if I had the first thought about moving the station closer to the mobile home park down town line farther. And then maybe we could talk to our neighboring communities around there as well, to get an ambulance there, because that's one of our major calls. But then when you look at the numbers, we would still need Good Hope. So we'd be adding the station instead of replacing the station. So our response times from that point would be a lot higher to get than Good Hope Station.
The only other thing I would like to throw in here is the Good Hope Station's a mile from the Sussex Fire Station. And if you look at the whole 36 square mile area, long-term, we double our population, they keep going up and up, and a third station, across the town and village would be appropriate instead of having two stations 1 mile apart from each other. But that's a long-term thing that I think needs to really be looked at. So that, I'm not talking about it again in 10 years.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? All right, item E, discussion regarding switching payroll for fire department full-time 24-hour shift employees from hourly to non-exempt salary.
All right, so while I'm working on the budget, I have spoken with our full-time fire department members, and they would like us to consider, or like you to consider paying them as a salary. So I checked with our attorney, as long as they're exempt, non-exempt salary, it's possible. And the reason for that is because one of their checks is 96 hours and the other check is 100 and some hours. So they don't, every month they get different amounts for each check. In addition, they're being paid hourly, but they may have traded their hours out, so they're not even there hourly. So they're kind of working in a salary environment, but still being paid hourly. And so the to allow them the ability to get the same pay each check instead of the same pay each month. This makes much more sense for our members. And
What
so I
is it-
wanted to bring it to the
What
board.
is exactly, excuse me, non-exempt salary mean?
So that means that they can still get overtime pay because they do their Kelly hours, they actually work those. And so that's overtime pay. If they worked more than their regular hours, they would get overtime pay. So they're not exempt from overtime. So we have to keep them still doing that.
How does that factor the new book that we have going as far as for replacing their hours for holidays? And how does that come into play?
It wouldn't make a difference.
No?
No.
Matter of fact, this is kind of a wash as far as what the office is doing. Might even be easier, right?
It could be, but I'm not doing it for the office.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for our members.
What do you think, Doug?
From what, and I wasn't in those conversations,
Mhm.
but I've heard afterwards that they're kind of hoping that this gets passed and it really doesn't have any impact on our budgets with them at all. So if that is what they would like for them personally budgeting and stuff, I'm okay with it. I think it's fine.
I'm okay with it as long as it doesn't, like you say, Doug, impact other things that's gonna come into play.
No, they still would make the same amount of money, but they would just get it paid differently to help their personal financing. And
Becky? Huh?
So how would we track overtime triggers then? What hour do they get to that triggers overtime?
do you want to help us with that?
Yeah,
Come on
I
up.
track that all on a spreadsheet right now. So every 27 days, if they go over 212 hours, I believe, then they get paid halftime because they already get paid their full time for it. That's where it gets kind of fuzzy. It took me quite a long time to learn and I got lots of many headaches when I was learning it all. But every 27 days, if they go over 212 hours, then they have to get half pay because they already got paid their hourly rate. Then they just get the half pay for that time and a half. That kind of makes sense.
No,
So it
I
still-
know.
It still breaks, I mean, if your salary, it still breaks down to hourly, how much your hourly pay would be because you're salary. So whatever that hourly breakout is, their rate is, they would get anything over the 212
212
hours.
hours.
That's what they get paid now. They get paid half-time hourly for their overtime. After that, they do their 212 hours.
So they got paid time, now they're getting paid, time and a half, this is the half,
Right.
correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So every 27 days, they're each scheduled for 9 shifts. And a half of one of those 9 shifts is overtime per the FLSA laws. Which is why we're talking about the 212 and then the 12 over in those 27
automatically
days.
double time or not time and a half?
Time and a half, unless they get time off.
Unless they take a Kelly day.
And is
Yes.
that what it's always been that way?
Yep.
We never change. We're not changing it.
Okay, okay.
So that's how it would work. Right now, that's, Michelle tells us, if there's any overtime, who earned it, how many hours of overtime, and they get paid half of that.
How does that work though? Does it work any different than if they traded a Thursday for somebody's Friday, whatever? How does that impact?
No,
it?
because the trades are strictly between themselves and we've always allowed it between themselves
So you don't
for
have
their
any record
benefit.
of that generally.
No, I just have the record of what they worked, but if they obviously take vacation time or holiday time or sick time, that's not time physically worked, so that does not count towards overtime pay.
Okay.
So right now, like, say Doug and Linda are on the fire department, and Doug trades with Linda for a day. And
That's between
then,
us.
That's
but then
between,
Doug trades with Mark, Mark's on the fire department too for another day. So now that's 2 shifts Doug has missed and 2 extra shifts they've worked. Who gets paid for those?
Yeah.
they
Done.
put down what they would normally work, and then he has to make sure that they owe him
So you
back.
got paid both of those.
Everybody gets paid, but then
Everyone
I
gets
owe
paid what
them
they
those
work.
days.
That's why I said it's
That's-
more of a
that's not-
salary situation.
So you-
I would never allow that at work.
So
Ever in a
Well,
million
Well,
years.
me neither,
you-
yeah.
You actually get paid on your absence.
Yeah,
It's very common across all full-time fire departments.
Yeah,
I mean, you're already getting paid salary,
Right.
You would-
basically,
yeah.
yes.
It's very common across.
so we're already doing this,
But
it's
we're
just
not-
considered.
We're not reclassifying.
Nope.
Positions to
Nope.
salary.
No.
It's really an administrative payroll function only.
Correct.
Is that even generally when you're salaried though, you don't get paid extra for hours? Do you?
Well, that's why they're non-exempt.
Non-exempt
They
salary.
have to
That's
be.
why I've never
they-
heard of that before. Is that common?
It is,
You're either
yes,
exempt or not exempt.
right.
Right.
Any government,
Oh, yeah.
or any government
Does that
hours.
happen to you on your job? Ed?
So if Doug doesn't make up the 2 days, you gotta take him out to the woodshed.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, you
Right.
gotta
Well,
really
there's-
beat them up.
There are definitely some horror stories, like I've heard on City of Brookfield, where some guy owed somebody a bunch of days, and he quit, and went to a different job, and those people that were owed those days, they are just tough out of luck. That's not on the city, that's on them,
Wow,
and
yeah.
that does happen, not often, I don't think.
Yeah,
And not if they're gonna stay in the same business. I wouldn't think so.
yeah.
You're right.
Hmm.
Or, I mean, it can happen too if somebody gets promoted from non-exempt to exempt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's up to them to work it out.
that's entirely up to them, as long as somebody's there jumping in the truck and going.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mm-mm.
So
Sure.
can I make that change and do the, so then I can work with that starting in the next year. I wouldn't do it now. I'd start it next year.
Do you need a motion? Just a second.
No, I
Just a
just,
discussion.
I didn't want anybody to have any, if you wanted me to bring it back, or I can just move on it, because it's not changing any money. It's just a administrative issue.
Any issue with it, Becky?
No.
Doug,
Nope.
Linda?
Nope.
Mark? Right,
Okay.
do it. Right, item F, discussion regarding step increase structure for the full-time Lisbon Fire Department employees.
All right, so this is, again, another area where I spoke with our members, and I wanted to talk to you about it before I put too much effort into it. I did get some step information from Western Lakes and Lake Country departments. So then I had something to take a look at. The reason it was discussed was because we only have 3 steps, and our high step in some cases is the beginning step for other departments. So the discussion was that we would add 2 more higher steps. Right now, what happens is you get to that 3rd step and then you're just, there's no place for you to go. So I'd like to, in our budget, find a way to do 2 steps. But then I wanted to do some research because Western Lakes does something kind of interesting. They do half steps as well. So if you had 5 steps, you'd have 5 half steps. So you could give somebody a half step and not a full step. And that would allow for, if somebody is doing a fine job but hasn't hit the next level, they could still get at least a smaller increase, but not the full bump. And so I wanted to look into it, but I didn't do a lot of research into it because I didn't want to start it before you guys are even interested in adding some.
So are you saying these next 2 steps that you want to put on over what the highest one is now is going to be merit based, or?
Well, I think our future is merit-based. And so the across the board raises wouldn't happen until you got to your top, your top tier. You wouldn't get a yearly, because this is a year, right now you get yearly bumps up to your next step, right?
Traditionally, that's been like 2% every year.
Yeah, but you also get 2% across the board, but then you also get this bump every year
For the first 3 years.
for the first 3 years, right?
It's a
So-
step pay, starting pay. Yeah.
Right. So I was wondering if you'd have any kind of feeling if I looked into doing something increasing their ability to get their bumps instead of across the board raises.
I guess I'd like to know what each step is.
Right, but, and that's, I didn't put that together because I didn't want to,
She needs to know
Put
if
the
you want to,
effort.
if you're open to it first.
yeah, if you're not open to it, I would just leave it said, and we can discuss it again next year. But
Is that something that the fire department asked for, or you just thought it was?
no, I did not just think of this myself. I did get help from the,
No, whose idea was it to do this?
when I had the discussion with,
Oh.
on handbook and such, this came
Okay.
up as step
Okay.
pays came up more, because we have some, I know at least one person that is already at their third step, and, you know, if they're looking at a small bump across the board, if that's in their best interest, or, you know, in our best interest to add some extra tiers, so then they stay longer. Because if our highest step is a beginning step somewhere else, why would you stay? I mean, if you think about it, if you're at your highest pay you're gonna get here, wouldn't you go somewhere else and be the first year somewhere else? And, you know, I mean, we do our best to keep our
And
employees.
there's 6 full-time.
We have
employees.
6 full-time,
Okay.
we have 6 full-time, 24 hours. And then we have 1 full-time chief, 40 hours.
Right.
It's not like we're just looking at one department and like, if you're not, we're not taking the highest department in the area and saying our highest is their lowest. I mean,
Right.
we're kind of, we're in the bottom rungs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I want to bring, you know, it's twofold. I want to bring I want our members to have good feelings that our board is looking out for ways to keep them here. And 2, I'm not a fan of us putting people through educating them and then they go somewhere else because they know our top is not, if it's not the lower than the beginning somewhere else, it's definitely lower than their second tier. But not that I'm looking for more work for myself. Because I have plenty, I just want to give our members, I want to keep our members we have. And this is one of the ways I thought of keeping our members.
What do you think, Doug? Oh, or Mark?
Well, I think we definitely need to look into keeping up currently somewhere at a good average with all of the pay rates that are going around that are standard and things. It sounds to me like this would be something that would be beneficial at budget time for looking at next year and seeing where we're at with money and budgets and how we can expand on this. So, you know, the history of this is we used to have 5-step pays and we were falling so far behind. We just dropped step 1, step 2, and started them all at step 3, 4, 5, and then we just made those the 3 steps. Because when we were starting them out at 1 and 2, it was so below the par. So we dropped the first 2, remember that? And then,
Instead of moving them up.
so instead of, we had 5 steps, but the first 2 steps were so low, we just got rid of them and started everybody at 3, 4, and 5 and kept those 3. And that's how we got to 3. And we're still falling behind the curve a little bit on standard pay. for
You
people.
think we still have the same problem though? When you go to 5 steps?
Not if
Well,
you
I
put them
think
on the
if
top.
I think if we kind of keep rotating them, so as we get our 5 steps, and then, you know, kind of like what Doug just did, he dropped 2, but he didn't put them at the top and increase. We actually just dropped 2. We could drop 2 or drop 1 in a few years and get it, the number 5 spot to be higher, but our number 1 would be where our number 2 is right now. Something like that.
The top tier is gonna go up.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's not
yeah,
like we're just gonna create 2 more steps between 3 and 5.
right.
Right.
If like, let's say number 3 was 75, it's gonna be 5 might be 85, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand.
So then you can still get your 3 steps,
Mhm.
but then the other ones could be merit increases, anything above 3 is a
Okay.
possibility.
You know where your budgeting is gonna be then too.
So with this, adding, let's just say step 4 and 5, would that be something that people work into, or is that something that's gonna be based off of the service or place?
Well, I think it would be merit based when you work at 4 and 5 would be, or 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, something like that.
I guess to rephrase my question, what would be the trigger for step 4? Is it years of service, or is it?
They don't
Oh,
know
Do
yeah.
you
yet.
have to get another merit to get it?
So I think it would be, my thoughts are, because I haven't done much research, my thoughts would be the next step past 3 would be, a year after your next anniversary, and then you'd have your eval done, and it would be merit based.
So if the trigger for step 4 is, say, 5 years of service, employee X is at 15 years of service, they automatically go above from step 3 to 5, because maybe 10 years is the benchmark for step 5?
That I don't know. I'd have to do some research,
Yeah,
but that's
this could be
possible.
a big immediate impact for budgetary. reasons.
But we only have one person that's at step, is at step 3. So it'd be one person
But
at this point,
yes, but there's 6
This year.
full-time people and
and they'd all be moving forward.
And right now the steps are just every year. Step 1, step 2 is year 2, step 3, and they're just yearly.
They just
So,
get it.
yeah, they just get it.
They get a
Well, they gotta
merit.
be in good standing and do all their stuff, but yeah.
Right, assuming they're in good standing.
Yeah.
Say somebody's been here for 10 years and they're been at step 3 for 7 of them. Do they automatically move to 4, or do they automatically move to 5?
And there isn't
Those would
any
be
of
some
those.
things to figure out, because that.
Yeah.
That could be.
There just isn't any of those.
There isn't any of them on our, we only have one that's at 3.
Everybody,
Part-time and full-time.
It's only for full-time.
oh,
Yeah.
This is only for full-time.
The scenario you just said is there's no one in there.
Yeah,
But
there's only one.
5 years
person
ago, that would have
That would,
been different.
Yeah.
but
but what we're doing right now is we're giving a 2%, well, last year, let's talk about in 2021, you gave everybody a 2% raise. But then anybody in this year that hit their annual, then they got another bump to the next stage. So they got their 2%. And then they also got around $5,000 raise as well.
And
for that
those,
step.
those step pays too were set, and then every year they went up 2% to keep up. And they still are falling behind what the market value is on these guys. And because we added 2% to those step pays every year.
We did,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to figure out a way to not have 2 raises in a year. A step increase and a raise. So. if
But
we
it will
went
be
with-
like that, won't it?
It is right now. They get a step increase and they get a raise.
A 2%, whatever it is.
2% raise,
The
whatever you
step,
guys.
the
decide.
step pay goes up by
Mhm.
2%.
Yeah. So,
Because now they get the step on their anniversary.
They get their step
So
on their
if there's-
anniversary, but
So
in-
basically in June, if their anniversary hit, they got their step pay, and then in December, the 2% hit, and then the
Right.
position increased.
or they could get it all at the same time, depends upon what their timing
yeah, if it
is.
was January.
How many, just curious, of the 6, what's the number of years that's just, do you know
One
offhand?
one person's got step 3.
One person in step 3. Do you kind of know? I think they're all like 1 or 2. Well,
Yeah, they're all
obviously
1 or
they're 1 or
2.
2s.
There's quite a rotation of people through there.
Um,
Yeah, they
I
don't
gotcha.
stay. They don't stay.
Because they can go somewhere else. And so we've got to find a way to keep them. We have some very good people on staff and I
Okay,
hate to lose them.
okay.
Okay, is everybody open to,
Yeah,
Have we looked at this globally across all of our employees, what that's gonna do in different departments? Other departments, can have a department that's coming forward and asking. No. they could do that.
We're going to be doing performance evals this year. So we'll get an idea on what the cost would be and then, what the, so they're not getting step increases, but and they don't get any automatic unless you're going to do across the board again. But my understanding was evals, performance, pay, and not across the board. And they've all been told about that.
the highway department and the parks.
Yep, and our department.
Mhm.
or clerk's department.
Mhm.
So they've all been informed, they've all been doing evals. I think the majority of staff evals have been completed. The department heads will be turning them in to me and then as with their recommendation, and then also the department head evals will be done. I have them all done in September,
Okay.
so. So
Well.
we'll be talking about, when we talk about the budget, we'll talk about salary or our salary amounts. And then within those is what we'd be able to do for each department. So it could get 1%, it could get
Mhm.
2%. but Whatever you decide.
Okay, everybody comfortable with this so far?
Yeah.
Becky? Mark?
What's the next step for? the board?
So we'll do some, I think the first thing we need to do is find out what the standard rates are for all of our areas. So then, and then look at all of the departments around us and what their step increases are each year. And how, read exactly how they're using their step increases. And then we'll bring that back to the board.
I don't want to tell you how to do this or how the department should do it, but I know the county fire chiefs keep a pretty accurate record of all the pay scales of all the county and how they get paid. And you can get all that information and
From our
really,
chief.
um,
From our
yeah, she
chief.
can get that from the county chiefs like tomorrow.
Okay, great.
But
And she won't have a lot of work when I sign it.
Okay.
Thanks, Michelle.
You comfortable with this, Mark?
It's no decision until I get something.
it's just,
Well, I mean-
Just have information.
Right.
Right, but I mean, the route it's going.
Yeah, I guess those are some data.
And we can analyze it, see if it
Right.
works. Okay.
Okay. Anything else in this one?
Mm-mm.
All right. Item G, discussion necessary action regarding LFT tuition reimbursement policy.
All right, so we have this policy that we allow our fire department members to sign a form that says, that makes an agreement with Lisbon that says that if they go into the paramedic study, that we will pay their education fees. But the contract says that they have to stay for 3 years. And if they don't, they have to pay the full amount back. And what I did was, I'm trying to encourage them to pay back. We have about 20,000 in outstanding. We've, in the past, have paid for retakes of tests and classes. And so I just changed the form a little bit to get a little bit more meat into it. I took the fire chief out of the equation of making the decision, making an agreement with them on how much they're gonna pay. Because the fire chief and the members are very close to each other. By just taking it a step away, it might be they might actually pay us. But we have one person that is paying religiously. She pays something every month, but it's only one. We have one person that's still on our paid on call, and we've got 4 or 5 people that aren't on our paid on call and don't do anything and don't pay a dime. So when I'm looking at the budget and I say, last year's budget, we got reimbursed over $10,000. And this year we're at $850.
Oh.
And we're still outstanding of $20,000. That's a concern. And so the reason it was so high last year was because one of the members left and paid their full tuition to us. So.
there's been several people that have paid in full.
In the
when they
past.
left. Yeah, oh, yeah. But not
And I'm
all,
sure,
not
but
all.
we've got a few of them that don't pay us anything. And the idea that we have a possibility of somebody just paying us $5 a month is not worth the time and effort that it takes the staff to do a cash receipt, then do the deposit, then mark them in that they paid so much and keeping track of them. So I'd like to be able to, I can't really make this agreement stick to our 5 that we have right now, but it'll definitely give me the ability to reach out to these 5 and get a payment plan together with them and give them a good warning letter. But if we don't get paid, we've got to make a decision on getting them to collections.
Mhm.
Now we have, like I said, we have one person that's still on the paid on call, periodically doing something for us, but owes us the most, but doesn't pay us anything. So I brought this forward, just, I know this is an administrative thing, but I did want to bring it forward so then you were aware we had the problem and that we're trying to fix this problem. At the same time, I want to bring the people in that owe us. And if we can't get them in some kind of a monthly, that we get them to collections. And then their wages will get garnished,
I think we should.
because this is the money we could use for the next people.
I don't think we're in the business of paying for their education and then they quit and without paying. You
Well, and
know,
that's,
Some of them just don't pass either.
yeah,
It's not,
Yeah,
they don't just not, they all didn't just leave. Some didn't pass. the
didn't
course.
pass.
And that also says in here, if they don't pass it.
Okay.
yeah.
right.
So, yeah.
So we have some members that didn't pass, they're still on our department, so I mean, they're
Yeah.
still here.
Right.
Yeah, and they're still serving us. They're just not paramedics.
One.
Yeah.
But the ones that do leave, those are the ones that, in my opinion, should be paying back.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's the more serious concern, right? is The
Mhm.
ones that just leave.
Because they go to some other fire department and we paid them for their training and they're working over there. And it's not, I think we should do whatever.
You know,
Avenue we
I
have.
totally agree with you. I'm not saying that. I just want to throw something else out here is that, the cost of that paramedic school is like $5,800.
Mhm.
And, but they go to 1,200 hours plus several hundreds of more hours in clinical time, and that's all unpaid. They do all that on their own.
Right.
And that doesn't change anything here. I'm just saying, they go to school for over 1,500 hours on their own that we don't pay. It's
Right.
just we paid the tuition in the books.
So-
I'm just saying.
So the other, if we can't get people to pay up, the next step. This agreement was give us some notice, we'll get something set up and we'll work with you. But the other option would be, and we're trying to get people to become paramedics. That's why we give them the money up front. The other way is reimbursement of each class. So they take a class, they pass the class, we pay them back.
Is that how it's done
So-
now, did you say?
No, right now we pay upfront the whole
Oh,
ticket.
I think that's wrong.
But that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And if we can get them in compliance to pay back, then I have no problem with that.
Oh, I think they should take the class, if they pass. A lot of companies you get reimbursed.
Right, and I know I've had that in my lifetime as well. We get reimbursement, but in our situation, we're trying to get people to the paramedic level. And if you don't have the money
Right.
to do it, we would still want them to get paramedic duty as long as they're willing to sign this contract.
Yeah.
And stand by their word.
Or we can pay them up front for the class, but not pay them the whole $5,800.
Well, we pay up front the class.
It's the
That's what we're
class, that's
saying,
the
the class.
You
That
gotta
is
pay
the
for
class. Oh,
Right,
that
we
is,
don't pay them, we pay the class.
now I got you.
These are a lot of young people that,
I know.
if they're gonna go to 1,200, 1,500 hours of school, they're not working full time. I mean, they don't have,
It's like going to college or going to whatever.
oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Right.
I think we should be
So I
paid
thought
back.
this was kind of an intermediate step.
Okay.
I have a few questions that
Okay.
I wonder if somebody can answer. How many employees have we paid for since the inception of our program through this continuing education? You know?
Doug or
I could
Michelle?
probably guess. quite a few, I think. And most of them, serve the time and
We're talking 10, 20, 30, 100?
no, not 100, probably. I think there's probably 20, 25, 30 people that come through the Lisbon Fire Department. I would say. So we went paramedic in 2010.
No, before that, I was in paramedic.
They would pay for hers.
I could probably check with WCTC or.
We could probably go back and figure it all out.
What,
Oh,
just
yeah.
curious, I mean, does that base us in on the future?
Yeah, I guess it does because it'll answer some of my other questions. What's the retention of our employees who have been paid for? If we, my personal opinion on it, from what the knowledge I've been able to gain is that it's not, this agreement does nothing for the purpose of what we have. Our purpose is to provide the town with paramedics,
Mhm.
not to collect fees, try to get blood from the turnip. Our purpose is to get paramedics and to get paramedics to serve the town residents.
Right.
So I guess if we've had 25 to 30 and 23 of them have left, it's not necessarily this agreement. The agreement's broken then.
Right.
It's something that we need to do with the system. In being, I had a few legality questions. Have the changes or the overall agreement been vetted by our labor attorney?
No,
I guess I would
I
have.
haven't made that many changes to it.
I would have questions to this, I guess just in my research, obviously it matters what the district courts hold true, is that most public sector employees can't collect on agreements like this. Private sectors is a different ballgame, but to put our effort into collecting on this, I don't know that it's worth the
For
effort.
20,000.
Because if this training is a condition of their employment or a condition of their wages, we just have to eat it. We can't make them an indentured servant based off of.
Well, not a indentured servant, but then they have to pay it back.
Right, but how do you put a value on what we gain from them being a paramedic here?
Mhm.
Because they're gonna say, well, you benefited from me being a paramedic, whether it was a year or 10 years.
Yeah. I can answer some of your questions because I follow your logic there a lot. I know an attorney originally looked at this and said the same thing. Well, yeah, this is written up really good and you can go and you can push for this, but the bottom line is you can't make them pay. And remember when they were telling us that? So, but we got this form originally done.
That was
by-
Perky.
That was Nancy.
Right.
And
Is-
so you're right.
so- Is anything tied in a labor agreement or a handbook to, is anything about being a paramedic incentivized over being a firefighter?
A higher
Other than
higher
pay.
pay to get the class, to get the credential. And most of these people are paid on call people during the time that they're getting this paramedic school. They're not full-time employees here. They're paid on call, volunteering all their time to take the class. And I would say that there's a much larger percentage of people that we've paid for that have served their time or have stayed here. They don't all just leave. So, but to review the system and make sure that it's actually working is a good thing to do. And to get those facts for you, I think is a good idea to look at the percentage of people that actually pass the class and actually stay here for a period of time. That would be good to see all of that
Okay.
over the last 10, 12 years. I mean, there's quite a few. There's,
Well, and if we don't have the ability, because all I did was kind of strengthen this a little bit, but if we don't have the ability to collect, then maybe the board would want to just set aside so much money and for training for our paramedics, and then just know that if we don't have money for the next person, they don't get to go.
that is kind of the way it is. I mean, I think there's $36,000 a year in training. And it goes for Fire 1, Fire 2, EMT, Advanced EMT, any kind of other training. And then the, how it was done is, and I don't want to keep talking for the fire chief, but, these guys would apply for this. And then we review them, kind of review their scholastic abilities and some of the things and whether or not they'd be successful before we put them in. But not, It's not 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Okay.
some of the other thoughts I had is, I don't think the town is in the business of pursuing litigation against employees or former employees. It's a huge morale killer for everyone, because
Okay.
even if you have a current employee and a former employee, the former employee is friends with somebody, and that's gonna adversely affect morale when we shouldn't be in the business
trying
of
to-
litigating against
Mhm.
former employees. I mean, we should set up a structure that works on the front end, so we don't have to worry about the back end.
Okay.
If they separate, they separate.
Yeah.
You know,
But it's okay to
Okay.
ask them for it back, and if they signed it, a lot of these people mean well.
I think he's
Some
saying,
don't.
don't do that,
I,
just
in my opinion, I would vote to tear the contract up.
completely
That's what,
get rid of the whole
that's what
thing.
my opinion would be.
Okay,
Use management to put somebody in a position where they're not gonna be the ones leading all the time.
Mhm.
Put an incentive as far as, I mean, we're talking about just giving steps. Why not use that money, we're talking about steps to go towards incentive pay? You know, if you do reach paramedic status, that would be a certain incentive. Sounds like it's already on a different pay scale.
6 full-time people have to be
It's
paramedic, or
required.
that's a requirement to be here full-time.
Right.
so the,
So that's,
so I know that we talked a little bit with the members about critical care, and so getting the critical care. I think we only have a couple of those in our membership, and then giving them a bump in pay if you carry that. So if you get, like, I think it was Western Lakes does like $1,478. It's something kind of odd number, but they get that much more annually for holding that certification. So that's an incentive to get there. anyways.
I mean, I personally would not vote to restructure the contract. I would
Okay,
suggest that we use management rather than contracts.
We
Okay,
shouldn't have
so-
the tools yet, though.
What's that?
Shouldn't have the tools to do that yet.
Who doesn't?
Kathy or Michelle. At this point, we don't, I mean, that's a huge financial endeavor that you just proposed.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's, the reason we did this, as long as we did, is because this is how we got people to come here.
How much did we collect this year?
$850.
How many employees we have right now? Yeah, there you go. We have some, but we have a lot of these.
This thing is collecting $800 a year.
But we get employees by this program,
I'm not saying get rid of the program.
right? But it's not it's,
it does kind of help, I think, to have a written agreement where they commit
Yes,
to concentrate on passing, working hard at it. And there is quite a few people that got full-time jobs and left Lisbon, and we wished them well, and they came and paid. We've lost people to Madison, we've lost people to out to Colorado, and they all came in and paid. They all, and we lost one to Fond du Lac, right? There's a lot of people that did come back and got full-time jobs and came back and paid. They did. Because they knew that was the agreement, and
Yeah.
they.
whether or not it was legal, it was good faith.
I don't agree with you, Mark. I think
But-
I would like to see you put your meat in here a little bit, just to,
Well,
you
the
know,
thing is, it doesn't matter what,
I know.
The
I
bottom
know
what's
that.
been discussed here, and I believe Mark will be 100% accurate, is
He
we
is
cannot enforce this contract.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I
Yes,
agree with Doug.
I know, we knew this
The attorney
10
says so.
years ago.
Well, yeah, I agree with Doug. You know, that you put it in front of you, becomes real legal. I agree with it. I think we should have it. And I don't care
Have
if
what?
you have an agreement. We should have them
We
sign.
can't enforce it. Linda.
I understand that, but they just feel,
We never brought this up in the board meetings before, but
they
it's
feel
out
like,
now, so you might as well
Yeah.
just talk about it.
they feel compelled to reimburse the town because we paid almost $6,000 for their education. I think they should feel some sort of responsibility.
And I think most of them do, but I think we
Right.
should put together that report for, like you said, to really look at the numbers and see how it's going. I think that's a good idea.
The thing is I know what you're saying, Mark, but we only get $800, but everybody thought they needed to pay it back,
Yes.
so
That's what I'm saying.
a lot of them were, so we might have been losing on some, but what you don't want is just people that on a whim to just go,
Yes.
and that's a management end, I get that, but
all of a sudden we pay out this money, the chief pays out this money and all of a sudden, they're gone and,
I guess I would agree with this, then why do you sign contracts with people who are buying houses?
oh my gosh, you're comparing apples and oranges.
What's the overall scheme of signing a contract?
There is a legality defining that you talk to any attorney, my dear. There's lawsuits out there between someone signs a contract that don't really mean to have it and they try to get out. It's called lawsuit. And you contact your attorney, and I've seen it in 35 years.
Right, so the purpose of having a contract.
That's different than this little thing.
This is a contract.
This is a contract, but
This
it
is a
gives,
Contract requiring somebody to
I-
pay back somebody money because they don't hold their obligation.
you're not talking the same thing in essence. That
On a
is,
global scale, we are.
no,
It's a contract
I don't
with
agree
somebody.
with you.
It is, it is,
I
it
think
is.
we need to have this. I think
Yes.
it gives the people a
Yes.
sense of responsibility.
Yes, that's
And
what I
it's-
say.
And it only affects the people who do not pass
Yes,
or the people who leave before their 3 years is up.
yes,
And the $800 could be from, the 20,000 is probably from people years ago.
No, it's been, I can't remember what the last one was. I know we have one in 18, as far back as 18.
Right,
One
but
is
I think
very
When
new.
you sign this, it gives you a sense of, okay, they're
responsibility.
paying for my education.
Yes,
I mean, my grandson talked to someone about a job. She said, we paid for your CDL, but you have to sign a paper. You have to
Yes.
sign a contract saying
yes,
you will work for us for 3 years.
exactly.
So
back.
this is not,
Or pay it back,
or pay it back.
right? Because at Mark's point, you can't have indentured servitude on things.
Right,
But
right,
that's
or
a,
pay
that's
it
a
back.
private versus public sector argument.
Right.
Yeah, but it's still the same thing.
Yeah, it fits into all these, it's even like the no compete clauses that are out there today that
Yeah.
are being abolished. I mean, these things have really changed.
Yeah.
It sounds like,
But-
if I can, we'd like to get a report that tells us the number of people that have used this since it started, the number of people that are stayed with us, and for how long. And then if we do keep a contract, that I am not supposed to go after collection. Essentially. That's,
For
you
now.
know, so
I mean, I won't- is this something we could litigate against somebody?
I-
I guess-
It hasn't been litigated in all these years.
What's that?
And has it been litigated in all these years?
Because we've
No.
been under the premise that it can't. be.
Well, you give them a sense of responsibility. I agree with Becky that when they sign this, their responsibility is out there. And if you're an honest person, which I hope
I stand.
firefighters are, but not all of them are.
I'll send it past Ansley and have him take a look at it. Tell us, give me a true answer.
I mean, we haven't gone after them. Are we
No.
going- are we start- is this the
The most
business we're starting in?
All we do is
Call
Send
them
a
keep
up.
letter.
calling,
Call 'em up and beg 'em.
sending them a letter, reminding them.
And they don't. Some of them just won't.
Some just
Everybody
won't.
else gets late fees added on if they haven't paid in 30 days. I have not been adding late fees.
Yeah.
Right, but the reason we never did, the most aggressive attorney we've ever seen said
Yes.
we couldn't enforce this. We know
Yes.
it.
Okay.
But
We
this
know
gives
it.
them a feeling of responsibility.
Yeah.
It did, I think it did help a lot of people to
Mhm.
have a
Stick around,
moral,
at
have a
least.
moral issue,
Right.
like they got full-time jobs and they stayed here POC as a paramedic for a while,
To get their 3
fulfill
years
this,
in.
to fulfill their, they didn't, to fulfill it either by service or by pay.
Mhm.
The training benefit was something other departments were not doing at the time that was helping bring members
It
in.
brought members in and it gave us paramedics, like what Mark said in the beginning. The idea is to have paramedics to respond to the calls.
It was a
That's the
different,
idea.
I mean, even though it was only 10 years ago, it was a different time, I'll give you that. It was,
But there was more people that lived.
is
in
it
town.
outdated? Maybe.
Yeah.
Some other way to look at it, maybe.
No,
Yes.
Since we went paramedic.
Yes,
Well, the first couple of years we didn't, when,
No. that's what I
no,
thought.
no, the first couple of years of paramedic service, we didn't have that.
If our wage end was high enough where we didn't have to do this, and that's where this other agenda item was at, where it was. If our
Right,
starting
because
was
we-
higher,
we train these people and then they leave.
But most
so,
of
well,
this
here's an option, instead
is
of,
paid on call.
well, do we take the $5,800 we're putting into this for paramedic and add it on to the bottom wage here, and then we just require the paramedic before they become full-time? Because right now we'll hire them full-time even if they're not paramedics, it's just with the understanding they have to become paramedic.
They pretty much are only being hired if they are somewhere within the class. If they're not in the class yet, I don't think, we only hired people that were in the class or were already.
What if they fail?
Well, yeah, they have to do it within a year. So they can't, if they're not in the class, they can't even get it.
The full-time or POCs?
No, full-time. Yeah, they're required to be permanent.
But I mean, this might be an all-encompassing discussion then. And we just move this off. This isn't gonna stay quiet. I mean, we never really talked about it before because, yeah, were we gonna litigate? No, because we couldn't. We knew it. But it was a matter of, this is the agreement, and it seemed to have teeth, and that it was perception.
There's quite a few people that have made payment plans, have paid it
I know.
off. Or stayed as a POC member when they moved off to a full-time job. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
I think we got a lot more
Thank you.
questions and answers now because it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
But I brought it forward so then we could start a discussion. That's fine.
everybody good with that one? All right. Discussion necessary action regarding hiring additional LFD administrative staff.
So we've been talking about it for a little while of adding some other part-time help during the day, during the weekday. So that's what we want to do, is add another part-time position during the week. We would like to add this position as an assistant chief position. And instead of what the letter says, 70% time, we're looking at budget and everything, and we're looking at hiring somebody for 21 hours a week, which would make it 1,092 hours a year, which then would not mean that they would have to enter WRS. So that would be under that 1,200 hour threshold. So a little history beforehand, prior to this year, the way that we had it worked out was we had 2 administrative people during the week, and then we had 5 on rotation. And then with this year, with Chief Brom's retirement, we all decided to hire another 6th person on rotation. And then so that leaves just myself as administrative. So we're doing well, we're maintaining, but it's very hard to get to some other tasks that we want to work on, especially administrative. So having this extra person with us not only will help with administrative tasks, but also will help with running emergency calls during the week. So we went through the budget compared to what we have for open positions. Our assistant chief position is currently open. Typically, it's always been the night and weekend salaried position. We have a captain's position open. We have a lieutenant's position open. And then projecting what we're also going to possibly have available in the POC bank, and some money is left over from the full-time fire chief position itself. We were looking at hiring this part-time position for a salary $30,000. So 21 hours a week, we're thinking 3 7-hour shifts a week during Monday through Friday to help with these administrative tasks.
All right.
It's money that's already there within the budget.
So another thing to keep in mind is we have the need to bring another officer in to get some separation between 2 of our members, 2 of our related members. And so this will help with that by getting a person in between. So I think it's very helpful. Michelle did a nice job going through her budget, seeing that she had the money to be able to do it. And we spoke a couple months ago about her needs to have an administrative person. And we got the move forward, bring something to us, and that's what they're doing tonight.
Thoughts?
So they don't have any fire training? Is this just like a secretary or someone answering the
This is-
phone?
No, we would need somebody also to respond on call. So they would have fire training and EMS training as well,
Okay,
as another person to respond on calls, yes.
okay, because when you say 21 hours a week for $30,000, it's 27.47 an hour. Is that what you're figuring?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, because it's a part-time position. It's not a full-time position.
Mhm. Is that pretty average for what?
It's probably low for an assistant chief, but for the needs of this department and for her to be able to pull it out of an existing budget
Mhm.
without an increase, that's where we're at. And it would help significantly.
Would it increase next year's budget a lot, though? No?
No, because it's all within what we have in our budget currently right now, and we were looking towards the future as well.
Okay,
And so what she made a comment, and I'm not sure if you caught it, was that she's keeping the hours of this position down in order to
Yes,
keep them
I heard.
from having that 11% more cost to us. So
mhm.
it's getting them on WRS, because once they're on WRS, even 1 hour, they get pushed into WRS. We pay WRS if they just do paid on call in the future as well. So
Right.
Talked about giving Michelle help. I think it's a good idea.
Mhm. I do too.
I think it's a good thing to do now. It fits what we have and would help immensely right now. I think it's a great idea.
Mhm.
So we hear year after year at budget, how's this gonna help our staff hour shortage? Because we always hear that we need more firefighters, more paramedics. How does this help address that problem?
It's definitely gonna help during the week. We're short, obviously. Like right now, we have 3 during the day, so it's definitely gonna help some of the shortages during the week.
You had mentioned the weekend too.
So the rest of our department is staffed, our full-times are 24 hours.
Right.
But nights and weekends, we have call groups, and the call groups have officers. So a lot of those salaried officer positions are the nights and weekends.
Okay. Okay.
So is the priority of need for administrative work or is it for people responding to calls?
Both, but we do need administrative help. Going from having 2 administrative people down to 1 has been pretty crazy.
You need the help.
I do,
Mhm.
I do.
Was it considered to hire more people at less? So essentially, instead of 1 person, would it be more beneficial to hire multiple people at a lower wage that can be call responders and then maybe assign tasks administratively to officers?
As in, because we're looking at I guess I don't understand for sure, because we're looking at a part-time position right now as it is.
So our pinnacle need is, and this is not you, I guess going back to your administration, you said that we need more people. So if we need more people, why not address that aspect of getting more people? And then maybe assign some administrative tasks to officers.
A lot of the administrative tasks we work on are Monday through Friday, and it's tough to work on them just being myself. The officers that we do have do work on tasks, but their POC members are not full-time members. I mean, they work on what they can, but they have other full-time jobs and other families as well. It's hard to get the same type of work out of them for, especially the salary that they're getting paid.
Has it been considered to use this money that's in the budget to pay part-time staff more and I guess not pursue the assistant chief at this point?
We could look at that, and I've tried to staff other part-time hours just for others wanting to take off, but we don't have anybody signing up for the hours right now as it is. We don't have the bank of people to work the hours during the week.
I mean, is it because we don't pay the people to fill at a better wage?
No, they get paid either $17.27 or $18.02 an hour, depending on their certifications. But I honestly don't have the people to pick up Monday through Friday because everybody else has jobs. I mean, we've lost all the people that were picking up the hours to other departments that had that availability.
Can I add something here too? So when she went through the budget and the available money that is actually there on the table right now, due to the few positions that are open, and this is kind of a compromise that we thought would work, that she wanted, and then there's still gonna be probably $44,000 still left that might intend to come in at the end of the year and try to start paying the POC some minimum wage, at least on the weekends. Now, that's like a $200,000 bill, but we'd have 44,000 yet to maybe start something for maybe 2 or 3 of them on a Saturday and Sunday and start that program too. Of that, and that Michelle wanted to do, so she's trying to do multiple things like what you're asking. It's hard to do any one of them great with only with the amount of money that's here without.
So you said this was a Monday through Friday, 21 hours. How are those hours designated? Is this data driven or is this just 7 to 11 every day? How are you?
We haven't figured out exactly what hours it would be. We just thought maybe like 3 7-hour days. When we were looking at the time, we wanted to try and keep it under that 1,200 hour threshold, but try and maximize the part-time position basically as much as we could. So that's why we kind of came up with the 21 hours for the year.
This is mainly for administrative at
Main
this
of-
point. This
yeah.
is not really, well, this person may assist on calls. Their primary duty is to, what will be their primary duties? Entering call data. you know,
Whatever we need help with administratively to
Is
work
there
on
set,
things.
is there some set things for sure they'd be doing?
I haven't sat down and really looked for sure, but definitely want to get them working on call entry and some of the other projects. And one thing we want to go through is our, SOGs, update that, our protocols, our EMS operational plan with the state. All those things are very hard to get to with
But
maintaining
there's
everything
weekly
right now.
things that, I mean, there's,
Mhm.
when Doug was the chief
Payroll
and
and
you were his, there's certain things you did, there's certain things he did, and then everybody knew what their
scheduling and
job was.
payroll and, yeah.
And now we don't necessarily have that because you don't have another person. So
Mhm.
it's job by committee essentially. And I'm imagining you're just pretty much doing it all, is what I'm essentially feeling.
Yeah, the full-time staff helps with
Right.
what they can and then,
But I mean, there's certain things that, so I mean, I don't want to put words in Mark, but I mean, you're looking to see what data says for if you're doing, having people staffed at certain hours, Mark, of the day.
Right. I guess I'd rather have somebody available to respond to our emergency calls at a specific time versus do administrative tasks.
What do we do about the administrative tasks then though?
Well, this person's gonna be responding on calls.
Right, but
That's
Mark's
number
not
one
necessarily.
Right.
Right, but we need, if you don't have, it's chicken or egg, I mean, if we don't build things out, we don't get things done correctly. People are gonna leave eventually because of that too. I mean, if people are getting paid correctly and other things, if Michelle gets overworked to the point where she don't wanna do this job anymore, that's a big negative. I mean, there's a
just think-
balancing act in all of this.
So Monday through Friday during the day, that's when we're the weakest.
Right.
Personnel wise, because nights and weekends, the paid on call come in, which still isn't hugely strong, but it's better. So if you have this guy 3 days a week or whatever hours they do, at least you're getting half of that work week with 4 people guaranteed, and he's gonna be doing stuff to offset all the overloaded work she's doing.
But so, let's say you hired somebody to do. Let's say you hired somebody that wasn't a firefighter to come in and do administrative work like payroll, this and that, and you hired them at like how many days a week? Like, say you needed a day and a half a week to do that, and then you used other hours to hire more people to be there on for responding to calls. I think, is that where you're going, Mark?
We still make under. It's not-
But the payroll's done through call entry. And I don't want to take away from you.
No, but I mean, this is, I had a feeling this is where you were going with this, was instead of, so like, let's say you have a busy week. And that person is out on calls all the time.
They're not doing administrative. stuff.
They're not doing administrative stuff and Michelle's doing it anyway.
She's probably out on the calls too. And that's
Right,
why
but
we
at the end
fall
of the
behind.
day, there's one person that's salary and there's one person that's putting in so many hours a week.
Right.
So it's all gonna go back on
It's
Michelle.
It's never, ever gonna get better until you have so many people that's gonna cover all this. And we are not there.
Right, but you wanna, if I go on this, Mark,
Sure.
maybe I'm not articulating
yeah, yeah.
correctly.
So is this position gonna be a paramedic position or no? Is the paramedic position gonna be a tag that's required of this assistant chief job?
We haven't specifically gone over that quite yet, but we'd like them to at least be an EMT.
Is that gonna be a requirement?
We would like that to be, yes.
Why are we not asking them to be a paramedic?
Well, we would love for them to be a paramedic and we could put that requirement down. I mean, obviously, we want people first and foremost to go on calls. And it also is very important for call entry and payroll because we need people that understand the calls and what needs to go in it for billing and payroll purposes to happen. Which is why it's very huge for them to have an EMS license.
Do we have data to back up the fact that this is the best position for what we need in the fire department now?
What data are you looking for?
I guess to go off of the chairman's point, which I'm getting to in my next one, it sounds like we need help administratively. It doesn't sound like we need help paramedic wise in the field. Is that what we're saying? Because I foresee this, if our busiest time is during the week when we're hiring this person, we know how it is. I mean, would you rather somebody sit in the office and finish payroll or go help somebody who's having a heart attack? I hope everybody answers the heart attack level. And that's where they're gonna go.
That's exactly what they
And
should
you don't go
do.
into the field for 10 minutes and transition to pumping on somebody's chest and go right back to punching out payroll. It's not gonna happen. So
Pretty much happens.
my whole line of questioning is to see if this is the best suited use of the money. I think that we need help.
I don't think that we're at the point where we can necessarily just have somebody stay at the station all the time and work on these tasks. There are lots of times that I do go out on calls. Having this extra person might make it a little bit easier on the lower priority calls that I don't have to go and I can stay and work on these things. But we do have second calls for service, and this would give us the ability to provide our own Lisbon staffed ambulance for the second call for service, rather than having Sussex having to handle it for us or Merton having to handle it for us. And
I
those,
guess the route I'm going is, my thought is, the reason I'm asking the questions is because I'm trying to help answer the fact that we just need somebody that can help administratively, that we don't need them to be a firefighter. We don't need them to be a paramedic. We don't need them to be an EMT. We just need somebody that.
we do need an administrative person that is an officer though, and hopefully a chief officer to work on some of these administrative tests that we do have to work on.
Does somebody have to have EMT, firefighter, paramedic to be an officer at our fire department?
They have to have EMT, fire, yes, they have to
Do
be
they
an
have to
EMS.
paramedic?
They don't have to be paramedic to be an officer, no.
Right, so if they don't even attain the qualifications, they're gonna force it upon somebody? I guess
We've
I'm not-
we've always had our daytime staff and our full-time staff go up to the paramedic level. So we'd be looking at them as a daytime staff person.
But if we don't recruit for that, we probably aren't gonna get that, right? Is that safe to say?
Well, we know we would right now, because there's some, I mean, let's just put it
The
out there.
issue
There's
is-
somebody in mind right now for this position.
Yeah, but if we could get a paramedic person, that would be ultimate. With all the credentials to be an officer and to fill
Right.
this open assistant chief position. I mean, I just don't know at part-time how many people like that are gonna be there. We want a big resume, but we don't have a full-time job or a lot of money.
But what Mark's talking about here is not something I thought about for this item, but it's a valid point. If we create this position and this person is all of a sudden always responding to calls instead of having Michelle has no help. If you get an administrative, and I'm not saying we do this, but I'm just saying if you get an administrative person who is only doing administrative work, you're guaranteed, that work is guaranteed off your plate. At that point, that is guaranteed to work off your plate. Where in this position, it's not necessarily the case. It's just a worry because
It's
you
just that,
cannot get overloaded. I mean, you're overloaded now, but you can't function like that forever. It's probably past that point now. So if we bring somebody in and that person can't do what we bring them in to do, it fixes one problem that maybe isn't the biggest priority. So Mark's not, and I'm playing along right with him. He's not saying either one of these things aren't important. It's just which is the important one right now. Correct?
I think they both are very,
But you
very.
can't- you gotta
but-
fix-
But if we put in this position, we're kind of attacking both of them. And you know what
Right.
happens? It's the same thing that always happens.
Jack
When
of
you
all
fall
trades,
behind on
master
the
of none.
paperwork, guess who's sitting there till midnight to do it?
But jack of all trades, master of none, doesn't mean you get anything done. If you're gonna, like-
These firefighters are not,
we're
they-
meant,
they're taught and trained to do all of this. They are very good at what they all do. And they switch all the time from EMS to fire, to training, to doing reports, to doing maintenance, to wrenching. I mean, come on, those jobs down there, these guys are doing all of this all the time. And when you fall behind in the office, guess what? You're sitting there later at night.
but this person can't be sitting there late at night.
Because you're not gonna, like Mark said,
This
when there is a
person
fire
can't
call,
be
you're
sitting there.
going.
But this person can't be sitting there later at night.
Now we're paying their WRS.
Right, that's the problem here. Think about it at home. When you're working on the bathroom, the kitchen, the basement, everything, and I got somebody that'll really appreciate this conversation. You're working on all these things and you're bouncing between all of them and you're trying to get them all done. You never get anything done. Or if you concentrate on one thing, that's, and I didn't think about any of this before this meeting tonight, to be honest.
I would, if you're gonna hire a position, they should be able to go run on call, especially when, if that ambulance goes out and there's 3 people that are gonna be taken out on a critical care call or something like that, you need to have somebody back to take the next call, even if it's a lift assist. And we have huge holes in our response with people, and we have issues
You're
with
talking
getting
about a
stuff
much
done.
bigger problem than getting the administrative end fixed right now, though.
I think we have major problems on all ends of this, and we don't have,
We can't fix it all with a 30-hour position.
we can, with the
can
money
start,
we
yeah.
have, that we thought we would come to and not have and ask for extra money right now, this would help a lot. A lot.
But does it help Michelle?
Well, yeah, I think so.
But does it help on, well, you think so. Does it help on the administrative end, though?
Yeah,
I want to get certain aspects. I don't want her working until 1 o'clock in the morning on paperwork.
me neither.
I don't want that. I don't want her panicked on if she's gonna get payroll done on Tuesday because somebody's on a P and B at the mobile home park. You know, some of these things would be nice to just get off of her plate. And this is meant with the best of intentions here. Absolutely. I mean, for me, I know Mark too. It's just, it's meant to eliminate things off your plate that are guaranteed eliminated off your plate. Is this person gonna get held back? I mean, all calls are different, obviously, but I mean,
So if you go on a typical rescue call and they send 3 out and they can handle it, then either that person or her will be back, where now they're not.
yeah.
And
That is-
the
My
administrator,
biggest worry is that this position is gonna get sucked into the field. And 30, or 21 hours a week is gonna be majority spent on call response, which does not help the overarching need of our administrative side of our fire department. It actually, I think this position, the money spent inside this position will actually hurt the overall operations. Because I believe that, I'm not a firefighter, but I
I'm listening.
know firefighters like to help, and when there's a call for help, the person's going. Okay, whether or not they need 3 or 4, the person's probably going.
well, there's response plans and they'll come back when it's a lift assist or when they're on needed. They most certainly will.
Right.
But I also think that
But
this
that's
administration,
also time out on the street when they are supposed to be administrative in the office. So the minutes they spend out on the street are not helping the administrative side, which this is the need that we're presented.
I also think that the position we're talking about as an assistant chief, which would be number 2 of the fire department in a part-time role, they also need to be firefighter and EMTs and paramedic or have all those skills to even do the administrative work that we're asking them to do. You're not gonna hire a non-firefighter person to do this job and do that administrative stuff. The stuff that you need to know to do that, you have to have those skill sets and that training and that education.
But what if okay, so what if you hired this position, which was being the field person? I mean, essentially out in the field and doing things, and you had another $15,000 a year to go hire an administrative person to handle administrative tasks.
Well,
That sounds great,
Then
doesn't
you're
it?
attacking both things, yeah.
Right.
But he just said that you have to be at certain positions to understand the administrative stuff.
I don't
And
know, other
just-
departments do this without having a paramedic or EMT level, I'm assuming.
The,
I mean, payroll doesn't require an EMT or paramedic level
if you're
education.
pulling just the sheet, the spreadsheets off, no. But to actually put in all the calls and do the EMS reporting and fill in all the blanks in order to get all the hours to go in and get the billing agency to bill it correctly, you need to have those skill sets. Because and those reports are what everybody falls behind on down there. And those are the things that you have to have those skill sets to do the narratives and everything correctly, fill in all the blanks. And get that so that when it gets submitted to the billing agency and then the hours get, anybody can sit down there after all that's done and just generate the hour reports. But all that has to be done first.
So we don't do anything extra to create our payroll. We use our systems the way it's set up. So we pull them from those reports that he's speaking of. So if we did something where it was just administrative person, we'd have to do something above and beyond kind of what we're utilizing our systems for to run those reports. But we currently use our people to enter the EMS reports for billing and then the NIFRS reports. And then we pull our payroll stuff from all those reports itself.
And then other administrative things, when you start to talk about personnel and coaching personnel or bringing in and counseling them or training people to certain levels. I mean, you also have to have those training levels and that expertise to do that. And some human relation type of history. And when you start getting into the fire prevention end of it and all the things that get reported to the state and keeping up on all the records of all of that so that you get your 2% money. And all the things that are correct when you get audited, those are all still highly technical jobs.
Yeah, but you don't need a paramedic or EMT license to do that.
No,
What
there
does
you better
Sussex
be
do?
certified fire 1, 2, or 3 and
But
have.
what does Sussex do? I mean, they've got multiple people in their office that are handling this. A lot of these things, I'm assuming.
Well, they always had a separate fire inspector type of thing going on over there. They have a fire chief. That's full-time down there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's things that have to be done.
I'll use what I know. Our national reporting for entries and statistics for crime is done by a person who's not a cop.
But-
Our typing of reports was done by a person who is not a cop. Our data entry is done by a person who's not a cop.
But your guys out in the field do extensive reporting and writing, because I've seen them. I mean, right, I mean, if you're a cop and you get in on an incident out in the field, what those guys are writing up seems to me like it's a lot that they're submitting to those people. Am I wrong? I mean,
Right, but you have to focus on the required, in this case, cop position, then spills over into a administrative position. You don't need a back-end cop to do administrative stuff.
okay,
And that the knowledge of being that position doesn't necessarily translate.
but you have sufficient amount of police full-time on every single shift responding on all the calls and all of it's covered.
Right, and I know where you're going with that. That's what I'm saying. We have two problems here. We have an administrative entry problem.
Yeah.
And we have a staffing firefighter paramedic problem.
Yeah.
We cannot solve that problem with 21 hours a week. For a
Hmm.
person who's supposed to be doing administrative stuff and then getting sucked away to do firefighting stuff. It ain't gonna happen. You don't need to be a firefighter to realize that. You need to have a management sense. It's not gonna happen.
But we've been doing it for years and making it work. So I
So
mean,
it's not working.
well,
We need to do things that are beneficial. We can't, to use his phrase, jack of all, we can't.
I gotta tell you, I 100% agree with you. I just don't, on the other side of this coin, you're not going to approve this position or the money to fix the problem that you just outlined. Because we don't have the money. So that's what I keep always getting told.
But if we throw money to fix one problem and it doesn't fix either,
So,
that's the
okay,
problem.
so then let's open up the discussion. What do we really need and do we have the financing and the funds to
Well, that's
actually
what
do
we're-
it?
Show us. Like, show us what we need.
Well, we've shown that over and over again.
We
If we don't have minimum staffing of
We've
5
had-
guys
we've had
on a,
personal opinions. We've never had specific data to show us what we need and what we need to pay for it. Hasn't been done. Has never been done since I've been on this board.
well, that you heard or understood. I mean, we've gone
Are you
through,
cutting at me?
no, I'm saying that we've used those reports of the NFPA and all the minimum staffing of a 4-man fire engine and all those things we've talked about them. Now, whether you related that to us telling you that's what Lisbon needs, or you know what I'm saying? Because we've said that even when we went to the Pewaukee thing, right? We were talking about minimum staffing, what a fire engine is, what all of that. And I mean, in my mind, those were presented. No, I'm not cutting on you. No, by no means. Actually, I appreciate everything you're saying here tonight. I do.
We haven't. Since I've been on this board, what, 6 years now, we have not been shown what we need, when we need it, and how much it's gonna be. We've never been given that data. The closest thing we came was in the Pewaukee proposal, and they didn't even have the data to make the
No,
determination, so they had to make an educated guess about what we needed. I'll go back to the realtor example that I used when we were in the Pewaukee presentation. We want to buy a house, but we don't even know what bracket of income we're gonna spend on it. We're not gonna use this recommendation. My opinion is that we're not gonna solve the problems that we have by trying to make this position what it can't be. It's not gonna happen. We have two different problems and we need to solve them independently, not as a blanket.
I see both. I mean, I know this is especially since I know the person that's eyed up for this potentially that would ever get approved. The person's got a lot of experience, could definitely help Michelle, could help in a lot of different aspects, but
but
it's not wrong.
And you're happy with this person?
no, we're not creating
You can't-
a position for a person, because I
You're
know
creating a
that
position,
is not,
a person. It's
I
just that there is a person that could fill.
there is a
position.
person that's out there that's interested in this.
Yeah,
But
that could
that,
work.
the Fire and Police
Is this gonna be
Commission is
posted to everyone?
the Fire and Police Commission gets to decide on how they do this.
So this is constructed from the get-go.
What?
This is constructed,
What does that mean?
like this has some idea that we're trying to fulfill our idea.
No, the Fire and Police Commission was just notified that we were gonna talk about a position and that they needed to maybe get in line with finding
So there is a person's name behind it.
there is a person interested in this
person that will
job,
apply.
but that does not mean they're getting it.
So are we gonna, another question I had is, are we gonna host a competitive hiring process? for
So
this
the
position?
Fire and Police Commission sent a letter they wrote up a thing to an attorney about a process of 2 different ways, or 3 actually, of doing it. And the attorney said all 3 of them would be okay. So however the Fire and Police Commission decides to move forward, they could post it outside, they could post it internally. They have to come up with, obviously the requirements and approve that, and/or because this particular person is already on the department, it could be done through a promotion and approved by the Fire and Police Commission.
So I guess sitting here as a board member who has no knowledge of this, why weren't we acknowledged of this? Because to me, it seems like there's something that we should have known this from the get-go, that we have no knowledge in what we're given here today, that this process has already been somewhat moving.
Well, because there's no position yet.
Right, but there's an idea.
Only that
Well, that's
we
what
would
we're
maybe
talking
get a
about now.
position.
Right, how come, I mean, why do we have to find out through this discussion that there's a person's name behind this?
Because it's not a guarantee that the guy should get it.
Okay, so we are gonna hold something competitive.
The Fire and Police Commission has to do that, but I would guess so. I don't know what the Fire and Police Commission say. They can do it 3 different ways. So,
My stance on this is I wholeheartedly want to help the fire department because I know in turn that helps the people in our community. But to throw money at something that's not going to solve the overarching problems of what we need is irresponsible of us to do. There's better solutions out there to solve the problems we have.
We need to get some help to Michelle now. We can't get help to Michelle in January. We gotta do it now. So what do we do about that? What's the answer to do that? Not 2 weeks, not 3 months. We need to get her now.
I think we have to start somewhere, and I agree with Michelle and Doug, we need to do this now. I would vote for that.
Becky?
we need to do this. We've talked about this before.
We
This
have.
is not the first time we've talked about this, and we need to do it. And as for posting a job, it's perfectly legal to post it internally first. I mean, that's the way a lot of municipalities do it.
Mhm.
They post it internally, and then if there's no interest, then they go and look elsewhere. But I mean, we know that Michelle needs help. We've talked about this. If this person goes on a call once every 2 weeks, fine and dandy. If they don't go on a call, fine and dandy. They're there to do the job. I think we're just making a mountain out of a molehill here. That's my opinion.
I'm concerned about getting Michelle help. That's number one. But I am concerned about just turning into something that it wasn't intended to be too. And all of a sudden, we got all this slew of calls and you're doing all the same work you were doing.
Well,
I'm
then
worried
it's-
about that.
It's up to Michelle to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right, but if it's a
I
slew
mean,
of
if-
calls,
if
you
this
can't say
person-
no.
Then this person doesn't go, you just say you don't go on calls. Or you go on calls only.
Right, but to
if
Mark's point,
Michelle asks you.
but to Mark's point is when a call comes in, they're going. If there's 2 calls for service or you got Merton's
Maybe
back,
not.
Merton doesn't have a person or Sussex, I mean, how many times have we been responding to different communities lately? I mean, that was
Well,
something we
then
talked
are you-
about with our
are you not
reporting.
gonna get Michelle any help then?
No, we need to get our help,
We need to get her help. Yes, we need to get her the right help. That's the biggest point here.
right? If, I mean, is this something we need to? I mean, there was the other point of getting somebody in between our 2 employees. I mean, we know who they are. You know, I mean, that's an important need
I
too.
think that's important, yes.
So I mean, it does solve that end too, but I mean, we've seen it where, I mean, look at where we're at now. We have no help for you. All the positions are filled. I mean, we had the same positions as when Doug was the chief, but you have no help. Right. The deputy chief wasn't there. Mhm.
Because she was it.
Well, I was.
Right, but I mean, the position, but
during
the
the
money, there's, the FTs, the full-time equivalencies are filled. The FTEs are filled right now, and we're in worse shape than we were before, just because we had a balance before that worked. Well, now things are different.
Yeah.
And some of this has to do with the fact that and this is no shot at any firefighter by any means, but the longest tenure we have is 3 years on a full-time position right at this point. You've
And
been
for-
here since,
And me, yeah.
right, but you're the chief.
Mhm.
So you were the longtime person here. I mean, we had other people, and originally we had 2 70% times.
Way back
At one
when,
time.
yeah.
And, you know, and things were just different. We're also running low on paid on calls and everything else too.
Yeah, lower call volume.
So we have a temporary problem we could potentially fix, and then a long-term problem we need to identify. Would that be,
Well, I agree with Mark 100%. Maybe we could do a lot better job of presenting a long-term goal of where we gotta be and what is the build out look like. That's fine. I guess in my mind, I always thought I knew what it was.
but I mean,
Maybe
this
it
is.
wasn't well presented here.
Mhm.
I get, okay. But that's another whole issue, right? I mean,
I'm willing to spend this money to get help. But I want the help more directed at the administrative end than I do on the other end.
Well, it seems to me we're trying to fill a hole that you guys worked together before. You're just trying to replicate that because Michelle needs help. That's what you were with you before. And now you need the help, what you were to Doug. Some similar, something like that.
Right.
And that's why it worked before. So she needs the help. Go for it.
can I ask, Mark, would you prefer that it be posted internally, externally, or how would you want it to go? Because I don't think the Fire and Police Commission has any
The best
preference
candidate's
right
gonna
now,
get
from
the
what I
job.
know.
I don't know what the internal components look like, but it should be competitive. If it can't be competitive, then you need to open up to a competitive market with internal and external. So, I mean,
I do think that the position that we're talking about, in my mind, still needs some expertise and some skill level sets in order to do it. It isn't like, I hate to say a secretary, because I don't even know. Those are
But
anymore.
it's administrative.
But yeah, I mean, But there's a certain skill set that goes with firefighting and EMS in order to do it. So,
I guess if I had, I mean, we don't know what the tasks are that they're gonna be doing, so to say that, I can't answer that question at this point. I can't agree with it or disagree.
okay, oh,
If we had a list of what this person's gonna be doing, I could say yay or nay to it. And I'm not making this into a mountain out of a molehill, but the longer, I mean, you go to a call where somebody needs stitches, you don't put a Band-Aid on it. Right? You look at the problem, you analyze it, and if you need stitches, you need stitches.
yep,
We're not, I believe we're putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs stitches.
okay, and I don't see it that way. I disagree with you. I think this would be a great step with the financing that we have
Mhm.
to get us over a hump. But
But
I'm
we've been
not
getting over
denying,
humps for.
I'm not
14
denying
years.
what you're saying. I get it. I guess I just, with this, and there are probably, I don't know how many internally people there are that would qualify for this job.
We don't even know what the qualifications are.
Well, you'd have to have at least firefighter 1, 2, and be certified as an EMT basic, but it would be better if you were a paramedic. In order to do all the call entry and stuff, so like when I was the chief, she was like the EMS guru. She did all of that state stuff with all the SOGs and policies and our state operational plan and keeping the ambulances licensed. And all of the people current and all of their credentialing and teaching and that. So that, that was a big part of it.
I guess if we're gonna tackle the firefighter side of this and having that knowledge base, I could see this as a position that's marketed to a retired WRS employee who maybe had leadership experience, who only wants to do firefighting or only wants to do administrative stuff because maybe they can't physically do the physical requirements of the job. And I think that market is way more impactful to what we need than getting somebody to do both. Because I think it's two different problems we're dealing with here. And I don't truly believe we're going to efficiently and effectively solve both problems with one person working 21 hours a week.
Don't you think we're looking for a needle in a haystack with that?
I think
statement,
with this, we're
I
looking
like
for
that.
one needle in a haystack when we could be solving the administrative side and then tackle the operational personnel issue on the other side.
You want to jump in the fire?
I think, yeah. I think I like what you just said. If we could look for an administrator or a clerk, a fire clerk essentially. And we look to somebody that was in that profession and that is retired, that no longer can do or wants to get out on calls anymore.
But they
And
could,
so they still know the lingo.
and if the call started going crazy, if they had an EMT license, they could still at least just drive the ambulance. No.
No,
No.
the whole idea is. to
See,
keep
I
that
just,
person-
we just cannot get sufficient people answering the calls and to do this. I'm trying,
Well, I
I'm
think-
trying to.
But you're
fix
not,
both
you're
things.
still not gonna have sufficient people answering the calls after you do this, and you're still gonna have the same problem with getting
Well,
administrative.
No,
end
I
done.
think, no, because they're not gonna be there 21 hours answering calls.
How do you know?
Because we don't run on calls constantly every minute of the day.
What if you do? What if
There
you do in a
are
week?
days that you call, but that's
Yeah.
not.
I mean, that thing was going off like mad the last week.
I'm guessing if you put somebody in there for 21 hours a week, half of it at least, if not more, they're gonna be in that office.
But this is where we're looking at identifying like, I don't know how much time you need for help in administrative work, but let's say it was 5 hours a week. Or let's say it was 7 hours a week. So one day one day you hire somebody to come in administratively. Or you have this person set aside administratively or however it works. But they gotta stay and get that job done. There's gotta be a guarantee that this person is gonna get the administrative end done. You know what I'm saying? I don't
So,
know why this is so difficult. It's, you gotta get Michelle help and it's gotta be guaranteed help.
I agree.
But if you have somebody that's gonna do both jobs, there's no guarantee, you don't have a guarantee. The
Well-
guarantee's gone. And she's gonna do the work. If it's not done, Michelle's gonna do, I know Michelle, she's gonna do it.
I know how that works down there. I've been down there a lot.
And then we fix nothing.
so why don't we come back at the next meeting and give a list of the tasks we'd like to assign to an administrative person? and estimate the number of hours a week that you would expect those tasks to take. So then if it is 1 day or 2 days, then we can just hire for that one person, but still have money left over to do a part-time, possibly a part-time person that will help with filling calls. But if your tasks aren't 21 hours, you might not need that person 21 hours. And you definitely wouldn't have to pay a fire clerk $27 an hour.
Well, the other end of it, we have to look at, I agree with this. But Becky would approve this right now.
What?
You'd approve this as it sits right now. This
Just as
proposal,
presented.
I would.
you would approve this as it sits right now,
Yes.
and so would you.
That's the
As
majority.
much as I wanna.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, but the 5 people that get to make the decision have got to make a decision on this too.
Yep.
And I don't wanna. So if somebody is gonna make a motion on this, you have a right to do that. I gotta say, my feeling and when this started compared to how it is now is different. And it's not that, I'm thinking that it's not the 30,000. In my mind, this might be a 40, 50 or $60,000 proposal, depending on how it looked. And we could afford it, but it just,
Well,
I do feel like this might be abandoned.
If we could hire a full-time
No, I'm not
assistant
saying
fire chief,
full-time.
that would be
I didn't say
awesome.
full-time, but I'm talking about potentially 2 issues that need to be fixed. And maybe this needs to be split differently. I don't know. But the thing is I know a lot less now than I did before we started this.
Well, it was a good discussion,
Yeah,
but
I guess I would put it to the board this way. How about let's challenge our staff to put their heads together and, I mean, it sounds like we want to help. We want to help. There's no question about
oh
that.
yeah, everybody wants to do the right thing.
Let's challenge our staff to come up with alternatives to this that may spark something that, I mean, we all know when you put a lot of heads together, there could be a lot of opinions, but let's look at what our needs are and fix those. And if they can't be fixed at one time, let's be okay with that. If you ever had a chance to read Moneyball, it's a great book. Essentially, it references the 2002 A's, and they essentially took one of the lowest payrolls in the Major League Baseball and built the best team over people that had 5 times the payroll.
It was a great movie too.
it is.
So let's use that philosophy. We have great people here. Let's just pump the brakes on this and look at some data and look at some job description tasks that we need accomplished and bring that back. And if this is the best choice, I think I have no choice but to vote for that. But I don't think we know that this is going to solve the overarching problems that we have.
It's coming down to the 3 people on that side of the room.
I'm willing to wait if it's going to improve the outcome. And like he said, when you come back with the data and where we're at and what the available resources is to try to do anything, it may end up just being this anyway.
Right.
But I would say we can be okay with that because how long have you been doing this?
Long
Since
time.
January.
Long time. I hope a little bit more time won't break you. I have confidence it won't. I want to get the best solution for the long-term problems.
Yeah.
Because that's what the mission.
Well, here's one thing. The person that's capable of doing this, we have in our department, is already there.
He's already there. He's
Mhm.
Can't we
already
just
running all the
Spend some
calls.
POC time on him to do some of this work,
He's running all the calls.
but can't we just use some POC hours to take care of this right now?
Well,
To
and she
help out?
has available part-time hours, and if, you know, with some of this extra budget money, maybe in the interim here in a week or 2, she could give out some more part-time hours to some people or a little bit of overtime if some of the guys want it to help now.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to
mean-
be, the position doesn't have to be moved into, I mean, it's just,
There is definite certain things that need to get done and caught up.
Right.
And, you know, if she has the ability to hire part-time people with some of this money now, just to even get some of these things done, that would probably be good. While we're putting together a better plan or a more comprehensive look at this.
Next meeting. Is there, are you, or if you three are okay with that? I don't want to step over anybody here. You guys
With what?
coming back
More
at the next
information.
meeting with more of a plan, I guess, or just.
I'll make the
analyze it.
motion to table this until the next meeting with all of the things that we had talked about, coming back with the data, job descriptions, and in the interim, see if she can get some part-time help even by the hour in there.
Is there a second to that? Doug made the motion, Mark seconded. There is no discussion on the table. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Is there any opposed?
I didn't vote.
Are you gonna vote?
No.
So who voted? I voted.
I
Mark
voted.
voted. Okay, so it's 4-0. So it passes 4-0 with Linda abstaining. Okay. Item 10 is closed sessions pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.95 parent E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, more specifically regarding Sussex Board Agreement and Brian Builder's offer to purchase. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I make, oh, go ahead.
I'll second.
Okay.
Linda made the motion, Mark seconded it. Roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman,
Aye.
Supervisor Moonen,
Aye.
Supervisor Beal,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
All right.
Supervisor Plotecker,
5-0 to go into closed session at 8:43.
give me just a moment to
Thank you.
end the meeting and stop recording.